Hi, David. I hope you are very well, and I am excited to get to talk about this with you today. So let's get right into it. What are the main themes that are being talked about here? Well, in my personal opinion, I think it is the idea of memory and identity, and how when we lose our memory, it can heavily shift our identity. Lepage is examining how personal collective ideas shape our identities. City, person, place, doesn't matter. He delves into his own memories, recounting the many aspects of his childhood, as well as the people and place that he grew up in 887. And the play questions about how what we remember and our understanding of our past is very heavily shaped by what we forget. And we can see elements of that very beautifully in both the dad and grandma. Just a quote here. He may well know the name of every parkway, of every street and lane and avenue, and as the city swells, so does his hippocampus. But as to what his children do all evening, he doesn't have a single blessed clue. And that's just a beautiful way at showing how Lepage's father, his life was based on survival. His experiences, his political, his wartime, everything that he went through was so that him and his family could survive. And that very much, as we see throughout the play, shapes his perspective of what's going on. Similar to the mum, what is described as a very prominent and powerful female figure at the beginning of the play, we can see starts to lose her habits, her personality, starts to lose her control as well. As her memories begin to fade, we see her actual physical identity about being a prominent member of this family also sort of begins to fade as well, which again is a beautiful transition into what Quebec represents on that story. The political backdrop of the Quiet Revolution and the October Crisis reflect a beautiful socio-political transformation that shaped the Quebecois years that Lepage grew up in. Through his father's experience and broader socio-political changes, we get to see the play explore to the Quebecois people what it means to be a Canadian, and to the rest of Canada differently what it means to be a Canadian, and how the experiences of both peoples, where both peoples originated from, mainly Britain and France, the religions heavily influence the way that those city-states, which I'm going to call them for now, provinces, how they run, how their laws run, how socially and politically they run, and how they view themselves as citizens. And because the Quebecois people have such different experiences from the rest of the Canadian peoples and have a different origin, it's heavily seen that they don't agree on the identity of being a Canadian. And we can see that it's very subjective what it means to be a true Canadian. The play, for me, posits a really important understanding that our past is always incomplete and is always influenced by external forces like politics, family, religion, etc. We can see Lepage's viewpoints of the government processes that are happening are heavily swayed with what his mother says and what he believes from her, and what his father says and what he believes from him. And their perspectives both come from very different points of views as well. I have to move on, but I believe that that was the overall message of this story is the delicacy of memory, the delicate nature of memory, and how we trust it in it so much, but it can be so fragile. Now, for the scene that really caught my attention and was a really striking moment, I thought this play did a really, really brilliant job at like tying in from scene to scene, the narration and it sort of being one big monologue almost that then cut to other scenes was so beautifully done. It read like a paper or like a comic book. When a character brought up a place or idea, Lepage would then, in a narrating third person mode, address and give us excess information. And a really awesome thing that this play did was gave us a lot of excess information without having to use dialogue. Through technology, through media that we see throughout the play, through the large structures we see, they give us so much amazing information through merely visuals. and hierarchy between the characters and how they act. And I think that a very prominent scene is the paperboy scene. Robert enters wearing a long, bright yellow hooded raincoat, slings the newspaper bag over his shoulder. Autumn leaves, full, gentle, pair of black leather army boots are positioned stage right. It's raining. Robert puts his hood up. The front page that he's delivering of the Le Soleil, dated Wednesday, October 14th, 1970, is projected on the big screen behind him. In huge letters, L'évarement de Pierre Laporte, kidnapping of Pierre Laporte, with a photo of a heavily armed soldier standing guard in front of Parliament. This is a beautiful tie. It cuts, gives us the entrance of our character, and without having to deliver a single line of dialogue so far, sets up where we are, why we're here, what's happening, and Lepage doesn't even need to say a word. And then Lepage comes in afterward with his monologue that gives us excess and a personal perspective excess of why this scene is important, how it influenced his perspective of the identity of the Quebecois and this historical aspect. And once more, dramaturgically, is just a beautiful way of using nonverbal props, sound, shadow, objects to be able to not only tie scene to scene so seamlessly, but also, again, provide a vast amount of context and information without having this play be super, super, super heavily dialogue. It flows like a performance should through its scenes, with the scenes changing seamlessly, not clunkily, which you could almost very much expect from a journal retelling of a historical perspective. Now, I'm out of time, but my final question is, this play delves into so many important political perspectives and so many important things that happen, both to the Quebecois people and to Canadians. And I'm intrigued, going back to Aristotle and his, main ideas, was Lepage hoping to inform a large sense of catharsis, both for himself and his readers through the execution of this play? Because we finally get to see that beautiful monologue given in both French and English at the very end of why this play was even created in the first place. And I'm just wondering, did that deliver just an incredible sense of catharsis for Lepage as the person who had to live through all of this? Because for me as a reader, it was a beautifully cathartic moment, providing a sense of both realism and objectivity of why this stuff needed to happen and why it's important to remember specific aspects of it. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed.